Who were the biggest risers and fallers in the Big 12 after week 2? It's time for PHNX Sun Devils Big 12 Power Rankings. Anthony Totri and Erik here to talk you through it here in the middle of the week as we build up to week 3 in the Big 12. Usually I am put on the spot to go first, but I'm going to flip it around this time and say, Anthony Totri, have things shaken out for you in your Big 12 Power Rankings a couple weeks in?
Well, no changes at the top of the power rankings, not at least as it relates to that number 1 spot. That still goes to an Iowa State team that just beat their rival Iowa. Rocco Becht and company look as tough as they did last season, if not better, despite losing some key players on offense. I have Utah at number 2. Devin Dampier and Kyle Whittingham, they have an absolute machine going out in Utah. Number 3, I have the Texas Tech Red Raiders. The power of friendship seems to be is equally powerful as buying players from the transfer portal.
Well, and equally powerful as playing some of the worst teams
That's
in
fair.
college.
That is 100% fair. I do have the Baylor Bears at number 4. They picked up a big ranked win over SMU in overtime this past weekend. Easily the best win of the season for probably any Big 12 team thus far. Moving on from Baylor to my next team, I do have the TCU Horned Frogs at number 5. I know they didn't play anybody last weekend, but still what they put on display against Bill Belichick and North Carolina, I think was very, very impressive. Excited to see what Josh Hoover and company do in week 3. I do have BYU at number 6. I've been rather impressed with BYU, especially considering that this is a team that lost what was expected to be their starting quarterback and Jake Retzlaff pretty late on in the preseason hype and stuff. I do have Arizona State at number 7, a team that has fallen. And I mean, you can't keep them up given what you've seen and considering they did lose on the road to Mississippi State. I got Colorado at 8. Really interested to see what that quarterback shuffle continues to look like. I don't necessarily think that they have found their go-to starter every single week in Staub. So we'll see what comes of those other Colorado quarterbacks as the season moves on. We've got the Arizona Wildcats at number 9. They've had a couple cakewalks against some lesser competition. In Weber State being one of them. Really interested to see what they do against Kansas State on Friday. I've got the Kansas Jayhawks at 10, Houston at 11, Cincinnati at 12, the Knights of South Florida, or Central Florida, at 13. I've got Gundy's Oklahoma State Cowboys at 14 after taking a whooping from Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks. West Virginia at 15, and then just like we all predicted, Rubus, I've got Kansas State at 16 a couple weeks into the season.
You know, if you put UCF or USF as 13th in the Big 12, they'd give you an AP Top 25 vote.
Yeah, you're right.
No,
unfortunately, you've got UCF.
I'd say we're pretty similar on everything. We can go ahead and take a look at mine, and we could talk about a couple of our differences. I, of course, still have Iowa State at the very top. Utah, I believe, jumps 1 spot up to number 2.
Topping me.
I have Baylor. Baylor at number 3 over Texas Tech. Despite having that loss against Auburn in week 1, Baylor taking down SMU is the single best win in the Big 12 this season. I think before that, you would say it was Iowa State over Kansas State, but considering where we both have Kansas State right now, you can no longer put that there. I think the win over Iowa was good, but beating number 17 SMU in, I believe it was double overtime, just an incredible game for Baylor. I have them at 3. Texas Tech at 4. They just haven't played good competition, but they continue to absolutely rout them. I believe it was Arkansas Pine Bluff and then Kent State Golden Flashes. Number 5, I've got BYU. I've also been very impressed with them. TCU drops down to 6. No reason of their own, just because they didn't play. They didn't play this week. And the teams that jumped them, which I believe it was BYU just jumping up 1 spot from my last week's power rankings, had a good game. Bear Bachmeier, again, all-time name in the Big 12. Kansas, I thought, put together a really great game against Mizzou, but of course that ends with a loss. So they moved down a little bit, coming in at number 7 for me. I also have Arizona State at number 8, who, yes, they've dropped. I believe that's 4 spots. I think I had them at 4 after week 1. Tough loss for them, but the only good news for Arizona State is that there is a lot more football left to be played this season, and it only matters where you are in these power rankings at the end of the the season versus the beginning. Then, of course, at number 9, I have the University of Arizona. I can't lie. I've been impressed with what they've been able to do. And while Kansas State isn't a good team, it's going to be the toughest test that they've faced.
It's kind of like
the
getting
entire
impressed with like a baby when they have the toys where you put the shapes in the right holes. It's like, Arizona, you
couldn't do that last year.
You put the square toy
You
in
weren't
the
able
square
to do
hole.
that last
Good
year.
job, buddy. Like,
They look better coached. They look like a more complete team. Noah Fifita looks like a much better quarterback this year. We'll see if that can keep up when they're not playing Weber State High School, and we can go on from there. Houston starting off the season with another win, now 2-0, obviously against some lower competition, but Willie Fritz and company at number 10. Colorado at number 11, a win over the Fighting Blue Hens of Delaware, and you don't know who your quarterback is. You're not going to move up that much. Cincinnati at 12, beating Bowling Green for their first win of the season. UCF goes up to 13. Oklahoma State rises.
That's crazy, man.
So, listen, right? First of all, 13, 14, 15, 16 are all trash. Let's just be honest. Trash.
Yeah.
Not good.
13 through 16, objectively bad.
Objectively, you could maybe throw Cincinnati in there as well. But we'll go this last row, okay?
Brennan Sorsby,
Look at who those final 3 teams lost to, because those are the UCF won. Oklahoma State lost to the number 6 team in the country in Oregon.
Yeah.
And they got their ass kicked. West Virginia lost to Ohio. And Kansas State lost to Army.
Yeah, support our troops, man.
Who lost to Tarleton State. Simply because Oklahoma State lost to the best opponent, I have them out of basically no reason of their own, moving up. I believe they were 15. West Virginia moves down for losing to Ohio in non-con, and Kansas State at the very bottom. What a fall from grace from Chris Kleiman and Kansas State. Do you feel like it's hot seat hours?
No.
For Chrissy over there in Manhattan.
I guess it really depends on how the rest of the season goes. I don't think we're calling for Chris Kleiman's job right this second. But I think if this trend continues, then yeah, I think there is a conversation that probably has to be had by the end of the year. But I think that's a perfect segue into which team for you has the biggest opportunity to rise this week.
Arizona State has a good chance to rise, but they do play Texas State, so you do have to wonder to yourself, how much are they really going to be able to earn this goodwill back? That being said, if they go out there and they absolutely dominate, okay, there's something there. Kansas State, if they beat the brakes off of Arizona, who's looked good for a couple of weeks, not that they're going to rise to the top half in the Big 12, but that might be
my answer.
One of the bigger jumps. I mean, they are down there last. You look at this week of Big 12 action, nothing too crazy. Utah, Wyoming. I don't think Utah is going to run to number 1 unless Iowa State loses to Arkansas State. That's likely not going to happen. Northwestern State against Cincinnati is not going to mean anything for Cincinnati. Pittsburgh, West Virginia. I mean, that would be a great win for West Virginia in that rivalry game. That being said, would they rise up to in the top 11 with the win?
Probably not.
Probably not. Baylor plays Samford. You're not going to jump up into the top 2 off of that. Colorado, Houston. I guess that's going to be interesting. Whoever wins that game will probably jump up to 8 or 7-ish. But Kansas State with a route of U of A on the road. It's the biggest game in the Big 12 this week. Obviously, for us, it's Arizona State, but just overarching perspective, the biggest game in the Big 12 happens Friday at 6.
Yeah, I would agree. I think those 2 Big 12 matchups, Kansas State and Arizona, and then Houston and Colorado, are definitely some games to watch. Let us know in the comments, which Big 12 matchup are you excited to see throughout this week 3 slate. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and of course, we'll see you next time on our Power Rankings.